Welcome this afternoon. We'll be doing our training today on managing and leading change in this virtual era. So you're very welcome to engage, to interact. You're free to network within this training. So feel free to tell us who you are in the chat section. Feel free to tell us where you're listening from, and also where probably you work. We may have a little bit of interaction and just get to know one another even as we go on. Also, if it doesn't bother you, feel free to share your email so we can be sure to follow you up with our training material after the call or after the training, and we can perhaps get to engage further. Having said that, my name is Karen Olege. I am a trainer and a HR consultant at DeLive Consulting Group. In DeLive Consulting Group, we are a HR consulting and training company. What we do is basically those two things. In HR consulting, we consult on HR strategy, processes and systems. We do performance management consulting, organization design, talent management, compensation and benefits, employee engagement surveys, and HR function outsourcing. Also, we do training on HR areas, on customer experience, on leadership development, on business development, on communication, culture, and change management. We also have another service that we offer under our sister company called ScholarPack, which is an education consultancy that provides services in career counseling, admissions to universities abroad, scholarship applications, course development and curriculum development, and other online courses. So you're welcome to engage with DeLive. I will be sharing our website on the chat section so that you may be able to follow DeLive later and just get to understand our products at a deeper range. And also perhaps you will be able to contact us should you have need for this. Having said that, so that we can get into our training, I will introduce the speaker of the day, and that is Christine Ogola. Christine Ogola is a business developer and training specialist at DeLive Consulting Group. She has an MBA in healthcare management. She has worked extensively in the pharmaceutical companies, most recently McNaughton and Pfizer, where she has been a business development expert in those two companies. She has been handling product training in those two companies and also management training. She's also done project management, and now she is ready to train us on leading change in the virtual era in the next 1 hour. So I would ask that you feel free to engage. If you can put your video on, we would like to, as much as possible, have an interactive session. Many questions will be asked, and you will be asked to engage with the trainer. So kindly feel free to do so in the chat section. Type in your answers. You're also able to unmute yourselves. Maybe at some point, as we are guided, we can be able to share our thoughts live. So feel free, feel welcome, and we are delighted to have you. Over to you, Christine.
Thank you so much, Karen, for that introduction, and thank you everyone for joining in. So as Karen has said, this is a very interactive session. So within the course of the training, we'd like to key in your comments on the chat section and also your questions. And you can raise your hands, and Karen will spot you and also contribute towards the training. So thank you, Karen. As Karen has mentioned, I'm going to share my screen shortly. So as Karen has mentioned, my name is Christine Ogola, and I'm a business developer at DeLive. And today I'm going to take you through leading and managing change in the current environment. So we are going to start with, first, we want to know the context of change management, the context, the environment we are living in, and the context of change. We are going to talk about the need for change, when the need for change occurs. We are going to define what change management is. We are going to see what organizations should do in order to embrace change. And you're also going to see how to deal with resistance to change. And you're also going to see the role of a change manager, what is the role of a change manager, and the benefits of changing staff in managing change. So before we start, I just want us to do a quick poll so that we know the people that we interact with. We just want to know the role that you currently play in change management. I don't know whether Karen has managed to put up the poll.
Yes, I have been able to put up the poll. You should be seeing it on your screens. Select an answer from the multiple choices that you're seeing on your screen right now. We can give a minute for this.
I can see 20% of the people are saying they're change ambassadors or change champions, 0% program manager, 20% change communicator or trainer. There is 40% impacted employees. So most people are impacted employees, and 20% other. I'd like to know the role that other people play, the people who keyed in other. Maybe you can just say what role you play. I'll continue. So that exercise was basically to know the people that are involved in this training, the role that they play, so that we can tailor make the training according to the audience. So we'll start. So the environment that you are currently living in is a constantly changing environment. And every day our lives are changing. Every day the places we work in are changing. We have change in technology. We have, change, people coming in our lives and changing our personal lives. We have in our places of work, we have change in management. We have, change in tasks in our the things that we do, so constantly the environment, we are impacted by change in our everyday life. And today, the main change has been caused by the pandemic. The pandemic has impacted our life in a very great way, and it has impacted even the way that we do business, our organization, the way our organization work, the way we operate as individuals. We have lesser interactions with people. We have, like the way we are shopping right now, most people are shopping online and everything. So the current environment has changed so much, and we've been forced to change with the change. And this change has been significant in our lives, and perhaps sometimes it has been very traumatizing. And some have adjusted and some have not. And it is important that we adjust to the change, that we manage the change well individually and even in an organization, so that we are able to move forward, because this is not going, and we've waited for it, and there are things that have changed forever and there is no going back. So in what ways have we been impacted in the way we conduct our business right now? So first, many corporates or many businesses have become flexible, so that most of us are currently working from home. We have a virtual workforce. That most of us are working from home, and organizations are encouraging actually individuals to work from home. There are studies that have shown that about 88% of organizations are actually forcing the employees to work from home. And most of them are benefiting from it because they're able to reduce the cost of doing business, because they use less space, they use less expenses, So that is one way that our life has been impacted, the way we work and the way we do business. And then there's also less interaction. We don't interact with each other anymore like the way we used to interact. So we don't see people anymore. Most of the things we do online, we have online meetings, we have online trainings, online interviews. At times, those people, the HR managers who are hiring, they do interviews online. After doing interviews online, they train online. So they barely see their workforce. They barely physically interact with their workforce. And you are now appreciating the way we used to interact, the organic way of interaction. There's also work-ready homes. We've been impacted because most people were not prepared to work at home, because we didn't have home offices, we didn't have working spaces. Some of us lacked technology to work remotely. We didn't have fast internet, and we had to adjust to it by introducing these things. Yeah. And then we also have e-learning. I mean, in as much as companies are appreciating the need of upskilling their employees to gain strategic advantage, they're also adjusting to e-learning program. They're adjusting to offering trainings online. And you find that there are many webinar trainings, many trainings are happening online, and they are constantly trying to find solutions to make this training effective. And the other thing is also the way we dress, the attire. We used to dress official when you're going to work, and now we can dress casual, and even do a Zoom meeting when you're dressed in shorts and even flip-flops. So we had to adjust to a lot of things, and we need to know how to manage these changes going forward. So I'll pause there and ask, what have you or your organization done in order to adjust to change during the pandemic? So maybe I can just hear from a few of you. You can raise up your hand, you're free to talk, so that we can know how you have personally adjusted to any change during the pandemic, or how your organization, the organization you're working in, or the business you're running has adjusted to the change during pandemic.
Please feel free to type your answers in the chat section for the question that you're seeing on your screen, as well as lifting your hand. You can raise your hand and just unmute and proceed to share with us your thoughts. What have you or your organization done to adjust to the change during the pandemic? We can give a minute for us to share our comments and answers.
If your organization has not done anything, you're also free to share that.
There's one response, Christine, where Natasha is saying our organization has come up with work rotations.
Most organizations are actually doing work rotations. For some people go to work, few people go to work, where they just want to minimize the amount of people who are in the offices. So you find that some people are working and some are in the office, while some people are also working at home. So any other? So we can proceed as you guys are putting in your answers or discussions on the chat. A change can be categorized as revolutionary or evolutionary. So revolutionary is basically a dramatic type of change, a disruptive type of change. So I'll call the coronavirus pandemic as a disruptive type of change, where it's very rapid, very dramatic. No one saw it coming. It caused rapid shift in the way we do things, rapid shift in the way in our goals, our structure, and people had to, find new ways of operating, find ways of doing things. Evolutionary change is basically a gradual change. It's a very gradual and systematic and a constant type of change, where we are just trying to improve on what was already there. So adapting to evolutionary change is not as hard as adapting to evolutionary change. So you find that in most cases, evolutionary change get a lot of resistance from people, of which we'll look at later on how to manage this type of change. Okay. So when does the need for change occur? So basically, the need for change will occur when the internal and the external environment of the business is constantly changing, but the business strategy remains the same. So this is what we call strategic drift. So basically, as individuals or as organizations, we need to change with the change so that we can survive, so that we're not thrown off the market. So I'll give an example. When the mobile phones were introducing touch screens, most of the brands like Samsung, Sony, Huawei, they adjusted the change to cater for the new customer needs. So you find that most brands changed that screen, but brands that were very reserved about the change, like Nokia, they were left behind. So it's very important that when a change occurs, you also change with the change so that you adapt, or else you'll be left behind. Okay. So let's define what change management is. So basically, change management is a discipline that guides how we prepare, equip, and also support individuals to successfully adapt to a change. So remember, as individuals, change is very difficult. Change can be difficult for an individual. And you can imagine if change is difficult for an individual, an organization with several individuals, that must be challenging for them to change. So that is why change management is very important. And remember, change management is about individuals. So it's about getting individuals to embrace the change so that the entire organization. And for most of us, we think about how to change, but we don't really think about who will help us in this change. So if we don't bring the people on board, that is where we are going to change. And the mistake that most of us do is to think that changing the mindset and also the behavior of people is as easy as changing processes, which is not the case. Changing the mindset and the behaviors of people, sorry, it's not very easy. So we need to focus on that, and we need to identify champions and ambassadors of change to help us get buy-in from people, and also help us form coalition with these people. And the most important thing is that the management of the company or the management of the organization has to buy in to the change. So someone said that 75% of the management must buy in to the change so that change can be successful. So another study showed that 70% of organizations that are taking part in a change process, they often fail to change. They often fail. The failure rate is 70%. The success rate is about 30%, which is very little. So if change is not done well, if it's not managed well, you're more likely to fail in your change process. Okay, so let's look at what organizations need to do in order to embrace change. So first, they need to identify the environmental changes, the environmental causes for change. And one of the causes is competition. You know, if your competitor comes up with a new service or a new product, this might sway the customers towards your competitor, or maybe they can come up with a new pricing. So you need to find a way of changing so that your competition doesn't take over. For example, I'll give an example of, Coca-Cola as a company. When Pepsi was introduced, the brand of Coca-Cola was a bit shaken, but what Coca-Cola did, they had to be more aggressive in their marketing strategy and also change their formula so that they're not overtaken by competition. And also customer behavior. Customer behavior can also change the way we do business. Like right now, most of the customers, they value convenience. You just want to order online and things be brought to your to your house. Like supermarkets like Naivas are now delivering goods to people's houses. We have Glovo who are delivering food, Uber Eats. So you also need to identify what your customer values and also change with it. So there's also change in technology. There are new technologies coming up each and every day. We have changes in regulations where right now regulations, for example, an example I can give you is there's a lot of customer confidentiality, where when you're handling a customer information, you need to be very confidential and you need to be very careful in the way you're handling this. So you need to tailor-make this by even offering training to your staff in the way they handle customer information. So politics and climate change can also be the causes. So what you need to do is to adjust your strategy to, you can introduce a new product or even, make your product better. You can go into new markets. You at times you're needed to change your business model in order to adjust to the change. So you can also be required to change the processes and also the culture, the values, and also the structure in which your organization is structured, so that you're able to adapt to the change. So according to this model, basically this model says that your drivers for change, everything that is driving you towards change, should be strengthened or increased, and everything that is drawing you back, all the obstacles to change, or all the forces that are negative towards change, they need to be removed for change to be managed successfully. So I want us to do an exercise, a very short exercise. Karen will take us to breakout rooms for 10 minutes. And this exercise, I just want you to identify a change in where you work, or any change in your place of work, and identify all the restraining forces, all the negative forces towards change, the obstacles that are hindering that change, and also identify the driving forces, the positive forces that are driving those changes. And then at the end of it, you can assign a score and see which one outweighs the other. So Karen, you can take us to breakout rooms.
So just click on join and you will be able to join a breakout room.
Maybe you can type in the chat section, and then we'll review later at the end of the training because of time. So I'll continue, I'll proceed. Let's go to implementing change. So basically implementing change, it's not an easy process, and I'll take you through the 3 stages of implementing change: before, during, and after the change. Okay, so before the change, this Lewin's called this unfreeze stage. So this is where you need to determine what needs to change, and you need to determine why we need to change, and you also need to communicate this early enough so that people can know the state that they're in, their status quo right now, and they know where they want to be and why we need to get there. Also ensure that there is a strong support from the management before you. For example, if you want to introduce, let's say, a new technology in an organization, you need to know and also tell the people why things are not working and why this new technology will be beneficial to us, and also ensure that the management supports you, and also ensure that you manage any concerns and any doubts from the people. So during the change process, you need to communicate often, communicate the goal, communicate the progress, communicate what's working and what's not working, and try as much as possible to dispel any rumors, to prevent any obstacles that will, prevent you from implementing this successfully, and involve the people, get buy-in from employees. Remember, I said earlier that it's very important to involve individuals in the change process. And after the change process, ensure that you incorporate this change into your culture, your organizational culture. Provide support through training. If you are introducing something new like a technology and you find that most people don't have the necessary skills or competencies, ensure that you train them so that they know what they are doing. For example, now that everything is almost virtual, some employees might not know how to operate Zoom. So you might need to let them know by training them what to do and how to go about it. And also celebrate the small successes, the small wins, okay? So resistance to change. So basically, most people are very resistant to change, including individual. People don't like change. Almost 60% of people they are comfortable with where they are right now. They don't want to change. They want change, yes, but they don't want to change with the change. And as much as things are not working, sales are not good, profits are not good, but still people, they're not open to change. So in your opinion, what do you think people are not open to change? Why, as an individual, not open to change? Why do you always resist change? So here are the reasons why most of us do not like change. One is uncertainty. Some people are uncertain whether their competencies or their skills will will be necessary, or maybe they will achieve the necessary competencies needed for the change. A month earlier, the CEO of Safaricom, Peter Ndegwa, announced a major change in Safaricom that required employees to reapply for their positions. And it brought a lot of concerns because people didn't know whether their skills will match with the current style of leadership or current style, agile style of working that the CEO was introducing. And this called for a lot of confusion, and most of us are very anxious and are very uncertain whether we'll achieve we'll be able to satisfy the skills that are needed for that particular job. And at times you are even attached to the current state. We are not open to changing our ways. So uncertainty is a major cause of resistance. And apart from uncertainty, there's also insecurity or fear of loss. Some of us are afraid of losing our jobs. And there's also threat of self-interest. At times you have your own self-interest that when a change is introduced, it's going to interfere with that. So we just don't want to change because of our self-interest. At times it's because of the nature of change. Like I mentioned earlier, if change is very disruptive, it's very difficult to adjust to it, and it gets a lot of resistance compared to when change is very slow and very constant. So there's also method of change. If you don't communicate well during change, if you don't train people during the change, it might be difficult to adapt to the change. There's also misunderstanding. That's where communication comes in. We really need to communicate well during the change process. And at times we just have ego. We don't want to be open to the change. So more reasons here. The reasons can be classified into three. There is, I don't get it. Some people just don't get the purpose and don't get why we need to change, how we need to change. So you as an individual need to enlighten them and tell them why we need this change and how this change is going to take place. Sometimes people just don't like it. There's emotional reaction towards change. They just, being emotional, they just don't like it. At times they don't like the person who's championing or the person who's leading the change. So as an individual, you need to create trust and confidence so that it makes change very easy.
Christine, I think we can just I can read some of the comments, some of the reasons why people think the change is resisted. Rose says fear of unknown. There's fear of what is coming after the change. Somebody, Oppo A5, says it's uncomfortable and sometimes costly, which I think is very true. I see Atsoni saying preference to stability and comfortability as another reason why people resist change.
Yeah, so basically fear of unknown, that is uncertainty. At times it's very uncomfortable, even if that is going to take us to, it's going to lead us to a very good place, but we need to adjust to a few things for us to get to the desired state. So in as much as change is uncomfortable, at times you just need to be uncomfortable to get to where you want to be. And yeah, at times change will cost like a lot of things. I think it will cost you your job. Some employees will need to be laid off. Like someone said on the chat that the employees had to be laid off during the pandemic. And at times you need to buy new things. So it can be costly, but you need to adequately prepare for the change before the change process. Yeah, so how to overcome? So first, you have to adequately prepare, explain why we need change, explain why we are dissatisfied with this status quo. So you need to realize why this change is very necessary to reduce and then you also need to clarify everything, clarify to the people you're not going to lose your job, your job is not going to be redundant, or whatever concern that they have to reduce any type of uncertainty. And you also need to inspire. You lead by inspiration, provide an inspiration, provide them with an inspiration, give them the vision where we want to be, and also motivate them and communicate as often as you could. And also the last one, you need to involve the people, you need to involve the leaders, you need to reward people who are adapting positively to the change, and also celebrate the the small wins, the small victories. Okay, so this guy here, John Cotter, said, in a change process, you have to win the hearts and the minds of the people, which is very true. For people to change, they need to be convinced why they need the change, and that the change is not going to affect them. So you need to win more of their hearts than their minds, because people are like emotional beings, and they need to be convinced. They need to be comfortable with the change first. I'll give you an example of a smoker smoking cigarette. So people have all the logical reasons as to why they need to stop smoking, but unless they experience something emotional, something that will touch their hearts, they might not quit smoking. So the same as change, you need to touch the hearts of the people more than you need to touch the minds of the people. So as a change leader, how can you achieve this? So first, you need to understand and appreciate the world in which, the world of the people who are going to be impacted by the change. So the world of people who are going to be affected by the change, and also need to influence them, explain to them emotionally, use emotional appeals and all that to ensure that they are comfortable with the change, and also communicate often and be transparent, be very honest in what you're communicating. Remember that adequate communication is very necessary, and people always associate lack of information with the worst case scenario. So you need to provide with them adequate information, and you need to be honest in your communication process. You also need to give them the technical and the behavioral competencies that they need for their role. So basically, you need to train them. You need to be a role model. You need to lead, not tell them what to do, but also lead so that they can follow your footsteps and see how it goes. Also ensure that there's no possibility of going back to the old system. Put preventive mechanisms in place to prevent us from backsliding, from going back to the old system, and provide a very supportive environment so that the change can be successful. So in a nutshell, change management is very important in our day-to-day lives and even in our workplaces. And the most important thing is we need supportive leadership. So if you're a leader, you need to provide that support to champion the change or to lead the change. We also need the goals, why we are changing, and the plan of getting to where we want to be. We need the incentive so that we can motivate people to adapt the change process. We need a very good communication strategy so that we can communicate, and you also need flexibility, because at times things don't work as we plan. So we need to be flexible to adapt the changes during the change process, and also need to put preventive systems in place so that we don't go back to the old ways. Okay, so the last one, I just want us to look at why is it important to train on change management. Why is change management training very important, especially for an organization? So first, it gives us that capability to be able to manage change well. So it will give your staff a confidence to manage the change. It will improve the confidence of the staff. It will improve staff involvement. The other week, Karen talked more about employee involvement. If you didn't attend the meeting, we can share the video later. So maybe you can drop your email address so that you can share the videos of the training. So it improves staff engagement. It gives us more time for implementing change. It will help us reduce the cost of implementing change. It also increases the amount of change to be implemented. So in overall, training people on change management will make it easier to implement change. They'll be the champions for change. They will, be more receptive to the change process, and this will make the implementation process more successful. And that is what we do at DLive. So basically, we train employees, and we train organizations on various aspects, including change management. Remember, this is just a teaser to change management. Change management is a whole topic a whole session that we can train for days. So at the live, I just want you to be our ambassadors and, like preach what we do, that we train on change, we train on various things like employee engagement, on leadership, and everything else. So I think that's it for today. So maybe we can get questions. We can also get comments in the chat sections, or if someone wants to talk. So Karen, you can take it from there.
Yeah, I can see a number of comments. First of all, I will begin with, what changed in organizations. We had a few answers that we did not read. We had Selamawit saying hi. Many had to learn how to use apps like Zoom, as well as to learn how to work independently. This is a change that she saw in her organization. Catherine said some employees were laid off because the profits went down. The company could not maintain a high workforce. I think most of us, or some of us, would be familiar with this change that happened in our organization. We have John Abuto saying, please give examples of preventive measures. I think those are preventive measures coming from the second last slide that you give. Please give examples of preventive measures. And as you prepare to take that question, I see a comment also from Roslyn Kamene saying, very informative. Thank you. So we can go back to John Abuto's question. Please give examples of preventive measures.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you for such comments, insightful comments and discussion. So I think one of the preventive measures that you can give is basically emphasize on the importance of this change. You need to emphasize both to the management and to different stakeholders the importance of this change that you're implementing. For example, if you're implementing, if you like hospitals that use paper, or not hospitals, or even any other organization that use paper records to keep customer records or patient records. So this can be very tiresome, can be very cumbersome. So introducing a new electronic way of keeping records, it's very efficient. So what you need to do, one of the preventive measures is basically training, offer people training on how to handle this new technology, because if they don't know, they'll be like, we don't know how to do these things. So they'll go back to the paper way of doing things, so the old way of doing things. So the main thing that you need to do to prevent going back is offer training, ensure that people know what they're doing. They don't just assume. You have to also do, monitor the progress of the implementation, monitor the progress. How are things working? What is not working? And you need to fix the things that are not working.
Thank you very much, Christine, for that response. We welcome just a few more questions because our time is also running up fast. And as Christine had mentioned earlier, if you missed our first training and you would like to have a video of it, please feel free to put your email address on the chat section so that we are able to avail this to you via email. Christine, if you can move to the next slides. Thank you very much for a lot of the insights that we have gotten from that training. My take home is two things actually that have been mentioned that are very key to change management. I love the topic on leading and managing change because most of the time our environment changes, and like Christine said, there's change that comes from the external factors. The external factors change, the environment around us changes, and therefore we need to respond to the change. But sometimes we take quite a while as an organization. And if we take a while, we lose out, because the only way we manage to survive as an organization is if we respond to the change. But sometimes the reason why we are slow to actually adopt to the change is because there's nobody taking up the mantle and saying this has already happened in our external environment, and therefore, how are we going to respond as an organization? So it is very important to understand that change leadership is not just for heads of department or for CEOs or business leaders or owners or founders. It's for everybody. Remember last week we talked about employee engagement, and we said we work for these organizations. If they close down, we also lose their jobs. And therefore, it does not make sense for us to sit there and wait for our organization to go down simply because we did not participate or rather lead the change that was necessary. And therefore, I may not be the CEO of my company or the head of department for one department or anything, but if change has happened, it is my prerogative to actually lead and champion the change so that then the department or rather the organization can remain afloat for reasons, for a win-win situation between myself and the organization. One thing that Christine has mentioned is that in communicating change, you should touch the hearts of your team more than touching their minds. So we change with the hearts. So communicate to the hearts of people, communicate to the hearts of your staff, of your employees, of your team members. Also, another key take home is adjusting to change is required for business survival. So thank you very much, Christine, for those very, very good insights. As she had mentioned, there's some comments, Christine, that I can read from the chat once more. Sonny saying relevant and so much helpful information. Thank you. Someone else saying, John Abuto, great training. Kindly email us the training materials through email addresses provided. Yes, John Abuto, we will be sure to do that. I see a number of us have sent their emails, and we are going to be sure to send the training material to you so that you can reference it a bit later. Let me just see. I can see there's 2 more comments that have come in.
Email addresses?
There's email addresses.
Thank you.
Yes, I see those ones. Thank you so much for those email addresses. We are grateful and glad to receive them, and for sure, we will be sending the training material. Look out for more of our training coming up in the next few weeks. We are still training, and we, as Christine has mentioned, we really do not have enough time to delve in depth into these topics, but should you need such training at a more in-depth level, as you would know, this is an entire curriculum. So please feel free to come to us, come to Christine, come to myself, go to the live website. I have posted the website link on the chat section. Go there, you will get our contacts, and you will be able to reach out to us to train your institutions, your teams, and even yourselves, and to get updates on our upcoming trainings. We have mentioned that we do HR consulting. We do also trainings on those various areas that we have mentioned that are on your screen. And we also do education consultancy services with a company called ScholarPack. So feel free to engage in those ones. Thank you very much. And I see no more comments except email addresses. Thank you for sharing those ones. Thank you for sharing. Christine, you can move on to the next slide.
Oh, sorry.
We appreciate you for joining. We, of course, have our contacts there. Right now, we will move on to something called Hall of Fame, where we recognize those of us who were early participants, were good participants, and all that. So our early participant for this week, the most punctual, was John Abuto, followed by Rose Irangatwa. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being very punctual. We really would like to be keeping our sessions on time. So we appreciate it when our members or our audience joins us in good time. Thank you very much. Our most participative member has been John Abuto. We have seen John Abuto. Actually, this has been our most participative member. John Abuto, thank you very, very much. And then we have our highest contributor today. We have had contributors almost at the same range. Rosie Rangatwa, we appreciate your contributions. Selamawit, we appreciate your contributions. Mercy, we appreciate your contributions. Sonia, Natasha, we appreciate your contributions. Thank you very, very much. We are delighted to have you here again. And from Delive Consulting, it is thank you and goodbye.